Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We feel so lucky to have so many of you here to learn a little bit more on how you're thinking about your sales organization and some of your strategies and opportunities as we really head into the second half of the year. My name is Melissa Murray Bailey, and I lead sales solutions for LinkedIn across Asia Pacific. So when we think about today, we're going to have a great program. I'm going to share a little bit to set the tone for the rest of the time together. And then Stuart Lee on my team is going to be talking about a perspective from a sales manager. He leads our Asia hunting team, which focuses on acquisition across the region. Then Philip Baker is going to talk about a sales rep's perspective. Here at LinkedIn and Sales Solutions, we're in a really interesting place because we are salespeople selling a product to help salespeople. So they'll be able to share with you ways that they tackle some of the same challenges that you're probably facing yourself. And then across the back of the room, we have some booths where you'll be able to learn a little bit more about the product. If we jump right into it, you probably have had a meeting or two with a member of my team. Is that probably safe to say? Maybe once, maybe twice, even maybe 3 times at this point. And if they're doing their job, you probably also know quite a bit about LinkedIn. So I'm going to use this opportunity to test my team a bit. And I'm going to ask you a question to see how good they've been doing in getting you some knowledge about LinkedIn. So I'll start with an easy one. How many members do we have at LinkedIn? How many people are on the profile? So who thinks that is 100 million? Raise your hand. How many people think that's 300 million? Raise your hand. How many people have actually no idea and you hope I don't call on you? So it is 500 million members. So we have 500 million members on LinkedIn. And that is including just about every single professional in Singapore. So unless your customers aren't professionals, your customers are on LinkedIn. And they're not just up there with a profile, they are actively engaging, whether that is sharing content, or that's updating their profile, or maybe commenting on something one of your salespeople put out there. Isn't that what we're all really looking for? Being able to get that engagement and engage with our customers and prospects online in the same way we do it offline today. But you know this because you've talked to my team. And they've probably talked to you about our value proposition and how we're helping customers to target, to understand, and to engage your customers. And targeting, right, you all know this already, so I'm probably preaching to the choir. But through targeting, you can build a list in seconds, whether that's CFOs or heads of HR. But that's the easy part, right? The harder part is being able to engage with them and to get connected and get them to be responding and reacting to you. So we are all sellers in this room, or you're in the wrong room. This is not one of our HR events. But we're all sellers in this room. But most of us are buyers as well. So I want you to take a moment and think about when the last time someone was selling to you. What did they do to get through to you? You probably get several calls a day or emails a week. Has anyone gotten an email today asking you to buy something? Yes, I'm seeing people nod. If not today, probably this week. Me too, all the time. But I also get a lot of different kind of emails a week. I get emails from my colleagues at LinkedIn. And what they're doing is they're asking me if I can provide an introduction to someone they might be trying to sell to. Because we know the world has changed. 10 years ago, when I was buying a refrigerator for my new house, I went into Harvey Norman, and the salesperson said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I said, "I'm looking to buy a refrigerator." And they said, "Well, let me show you this model, and this model, and this model. And we're running a deal on this one, and this one has the highest Energy Star rating." When I just got a new house, did I do that same thing? I didn't. I went online, and I looked at all the different models, and what did I see? I saw the reviews on those models. And then my husband posted on Facebook, "Anyone checked out the new Samsung French door fridge? What do you think?" And someone said, "Oh yeah, I just got that. I love it." And then when we walked into Harvey Norman, the salesperson said, "How can I help you?" And I said, "Oh no, I got it. I want that one." So people now are really listening to others in a different way. So I mentioned the emails that I get from our colleagues requesting that I connect them with someone. And they know that because they can see that through Sales Navigator. And just last week, someone reached out to me and they said, "Hey, Melissa, I see someone you used to work with is now head of sales at this company. I've been trying to reach out to him with no luck. Would you mind providing an introduction?" And it was great. It was easy for me because she gave me a little intro that I could just tweak a little bit. And I said, "Hey, Gautam, I haven't talked to you in a while, but I know my colleague Sam has been trying to get in contact with you. Would you mind talking to her? I think in your new role, this is something that could really help." He responded within 1 hour and said, "Yes, I would love to talk with her. If you're working there now, it's something I'd be interested in learning more. This is what my team is up to." So not only did she get that meeting, she got all that intel. It's a new world out there. But we're going into the second half of the year now. So you've probably already been doing a lot of work building your pipeline, right? You're not out there slacking. Your team, all through the first half of the year, has been doing all of these things, and you have got a great pipeline. So now to the easy part, converting that into bookings. So if you're nodding and you're saying that's the easy part, or if you're smiling at me and saying, of course, that's the harder part, then you're going to be really interested to hear what my colleagues are going to share with you across the rest of the time. Because we're not going to be talking about targeting, because you've been doing that already throughout the year. We're going to talk about some of the other things that we're focused on now to convert all that hard work from the beginning of the year into a really successful second half of the year. So thank you again for joining us, and I'll introduce you to Stuart Lee now.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Good afternoon. Thank you. Hello. Nice, friendly person. I'm feedbacking already. Thank you for that welcome. I welcome you to our office. I really do appreciate anybody giving up their professional time to hear what we've got to say. We have a lot to say, and today we want to focus in on areas that can help you ultimately finish the year as strong as hopefully you started. So I'm going to start by taking you on a journey. I'm going to take you on a very, very instant time capsule back. I want you to think about the start of the year, or the start of your financial year. I want you to think about that first day in the office when everything was fresh. And I want you to think about how positive life was, because at the end of the day, we had a year ahead of us. We had a year to figure out any of the issues. Melissa gave me quota? Sure, I can hit that quota, no problem. My reps, I give them quota. They might not quite say that to my face, but that's what they thought. I know that, for sure. But the point I'm making is, at the start of the year, things are a little bit easy to focus. When you're figuring out what to do as a sales professional, time is on your side. What I found and have found over time is that it's quite easy to get your shirt sleeves rolled up. That was very difficult for me to say. Note to self, do not have 3 S's in a sentence again. Get your hands dirty and just get in there and actually start to do the 3 P's of sales, whether it be prospecting, whether it be prospecting, or whether it be prospecting. The whole point is that focus is there and that drive is there. And I'm assuming, hopefully, that the majority of you in this room did that hard work, did the hard graft. Started with a snowball, built it into a football, built that boulder and that momentum, and now have literally a forest of pipeline. That success is amazing, and I want to share that success and congratulate all of you to actually get to that point. I also want to describe to you what I mean by you can't see the wood for the trees. When I actually went through this premise with my team, a lot of them explained to me that it's quite an English statement, so I'm going to try and explain to it. It's obviously a picture of a forest, and if you can't see the wood for the trees, the analogy is your pipeline. You have opportunity. But which tree do you fell? What do you use? Which are the trees that need a push? Which are the trees that need a chainsaw? Which trees just need leaving alone to grow of their own accord until 2018? So not being able to see the wood for the trees is one of the best analogies, because it then led me to the analogy of what my aim here today is. And my aim is pretty simple. It's probably something a little bit surprising, but I actually want to make you into the best lumberjacks you can possibly be. Because the worst thing you can do right now is act like a demented, mental lumberjack with an axe and try and chop down every single tree. We want to take you from this to this without having to deal with this. Because all the work you put in today would be absolutely catastrophically ruined if you get this wrong. So, a sales manager's point of view. Barking up the wrong tree, turnover, deals go dark. There's a theme here. You see that? Barking up the wrong tree. These are 3 areas that when we look at the immense amounts of data that as a business we have happening on our unique ecosystem on a daily basis, billions of interactions. And we couple that with the unique point of view we have in the business in terms of we are salespeople selling to the sales industry. The insights we can garner and the conclusions we can come to are pretty cool. And none more so cool than the 3 areas we're going to raise today to give to you guys, the professionals in this industry, to figure out the impact that could potentially have to your business, to your year, to the rest of 2017 as it stands right now. First of all, barking up the tree, wrong tree. I'm going to ask for a show of hands. Nice shoes. Who thinks it takes longer to get to a yes than it does to get to a no in sales, on average? So hands in the air if you think it takes longer to get to a yes. Few hands. More and more. Flip side. Who thinks it takes longer to get to a no than a yes? Wow. The LinkedIn people at the back. Who doesn't know or care? Not many people. Great. The fact of the matter is, CEB tell us that it actually takes pretty much exactly the same amount of time to get to a no as it does to a yes. So barking up at the wrong tree, in the analogy of the forest of your pipeline, basically means it's incredibly important for you to understand how to prioritize, like you did at the start of the year, like you did when you first got your accounts and you first got your quotas, and you first understood what that year looked like for you and for your team and for your business. But indecision taking forever, it kills us. It kills our forecast accuracy. As a sales manager, there's nothing I hate more than someone telling me one thing and actually delivering another. Ridiculously, this is the difference between the two decisions. Statistically, they're almost exactly the same. But the one takeaway from this point I want you to really to figure out and how this impacts your business is this. If you go back to your office this afternoon and you jump into your email and there's that client that you've been chasing for 6 months, and for the first time that client has actually reached out and said, yeah, I'm going to talk. This stat tells me that not only will you not know whether it's a yes or a no in that period of time, but that period of time will take you already into next year. That risk needs mitigating. Hopefully after today, you'll have some ideas as to how to do that. Second of all, turnover. What do we mean by turnover? Well, if there's one thing we know at LinkedIn, it's talent, and where talent goes and when talent goes and what the cyclical nature of that talent movement is. We know that in January, more moves happen than any other time in the year. But that movement is constant. It averages out at actually 40%. So think about the forest of pipeline you've built, that up to nearly half of that is actually potentially at risk because that great relationship you've made with your decision maker disappears overnight when they move to their next play. It actually is an internal risk as well. Your reps, you as individual salespeople, I doubt you all stay where you are forever and a day. Turnover is natural progression. People move for the right reasons as well as the wrong reasons. People move for the right reasons for them. It's never generally the right reasons for us as sales professionals. Mitigating against that risk, or at least getting out ahead of it, gives you advantage to mean that your 2017 is not derailed. Your opportunities are not derailed. And it also gives you the ability to find the tree to focus on. Lastly, losing touch with prospects. 24% for me in this area is already an effective number. It really, as a sales manager, if I can figure out that 24% of the deals that my team present to me could go dark, and we've all had that conversation. You know, sorry boss, they're not returning my calls. I don't know where they've gone. This has happened, that's happened. 24% of the time, that's a massive impact. But I want to bring your attention to the text. 24% of forecasted deals go dark. So that number is at the end of your pipe, the most important pipeline you have. Not the new conversations, not the developing conversations, not the to and fro of your solution versus the market. It's the ones that your reps have committed to you. It's the ones that, in turn, you have committed to your business. And in most cases, your business is committed to the markets. It's hugely, hugely impactful if you're not out ahead and you don't understand that it's there in the first place. So, in summary, 3 areas. This information has come from external CEB, from the crunching of the data that we have on LinkedIn, and obviously from the understanding of our clients in sales globally. It's key you get out ahead. What I want you to do is take away from today that to be successful for the rest of the year, to finish strong, you need, whether you like it or not, to be a lumberjack. And I truly believe, who the heck wouldn't want to be a lumberjack? How cool a picture is that? I'm trying to grow my beard that way, by the way. So, without further ado, and by the way, it's a complete coincidence that this picture looks a little bit like the next speaker. He's quite happy because it makes him look even better looking than he thinks he is. But I will introduce one of my team, Philip Baker, to actually give you some answers. We talked about the why. He's now going to give you some potential solutions about how you can start to mitigate the risks that we've just highlighted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stu. Hey, nice to meet you all. My name's Philip Baker. As Stu said, I am part of his team. So on Monday morning, he was browbeating me about my pipeline. He was browbeating me about deals that haven't come in last week that were meant to come in. But I'm a sales rep. I've been here for about 18 months. I joined last January. And it's my responsibility, as it is with my team, who are all at the back of the room, you'll have met them earlier, to really work with you guys to help you understand how you can use us to help you hit your numbers. So hopefully I can impart a little bit of the knowledge that I've learned and some brand new stuff that I've only had in my hands for just a couple of months, which is really helping me to solve the challenges that are keeping Stu awake at night and keeping that beard going a little bit grayer than maybe it should be. So knowledge is power. I don't think that's a UK colloquialism, but it means, knowledge is king. As a salesperson, we want to be the most informed person that we can be. How many times has your salesperson been like, well, I'm not quite sure when it's going to close. I don't quite know the extent of the decision-making group. I don't know whether they're going to go for A, B, or C. But you really want them to have that idea every single time. You want 100% knowledge. And unfortunately, that's just never going to be the case. Salespeople aren't magicians. But what we do know is that the knowledge that they can have is at greater availability than it's ever been before. With the advent of digital and social, with marketing automation, with click-throughs, with all of this fantastic data that marketing and sales and business development and account managers are bringing into the business, and everything around relationships and social and what motivates your customers available on places like LinkedIn. If you're a consumer-facing business, fantastic. Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, all of these platforms are giving you data that you've never had at your fingertips before, but only if you open up the book and you read what's inside. So hopefully you will recognize what this is, psychic, mind reader, depending on where you are in the world. And I think, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but if I was a sales manager, maybe you can confirm, Stu, you want your salespeople to read the minds of your buyers. You want them to know everything, to have that fly on the wall mentality, and to be able to predict what that customer is going to do, what that client's going to do. I wish it was that simple. But what we've actually invested in as a business, we organized a merger and acquisition last year, which gave us, as customer number one, access to that kind of information. And it's called Point Drive. And it really does help you get into the mind of your buyers. And I'm just going to play a short little video which explains exactly what it is, and then maybe afterwards we can discuss it a little bit further. There we go. That's Point Drive. little introduction there. Show of hands, whose team is sending out brochures, materials, hyperlinks, and emails like the very, very start of that video? A few hands there, a few nodding heads. Melissa asked you earlier, who's opening those emails? Hands up if you think that 100% of the people that are receiving that emails are reading them and opening up the brochures and watching every video, right? It's a really tricky situation because me as a salesperson, if I send that email and I send it to decision maker 1, I lose all control. I don't know who's viewing it. I don't know if they're even opening the attachments that I've spent, you know, maybe 15, 20, half an hour putting together a deck for them to view. It's a waste of my time if I know nothing further apart from sending that email. So the first thing that happens is it's a super engaging way to view all of these materials. It looks a ton better than an email with 35 different things in it. So it makes your salesperson look good. It makes you look as a really, really professional company. But the middle part there, and it may have skipped you by, but actually knowing when that person opens it, and if they do open it. So in this instance, I've sent a presentation to Carlos at the very top. But I've only sent it to one person. I sent it to the decision maker. But I start getting notifications that some of his colleagues are accessing that presentation. Suddenly I know the 5, the 6, the 7 people that are involved in that decision, and I know who else I need to start building relationships with. And CEB tells us that, and you guys probably already know, 7 decision makers in every decision-making purchase. 2 years ago, that was 5.4. Today, it's 6.8. It's getting bigger all the time, and it's bigger in Asia. So this really helps me to identify, A, are they accessing it? Is it worth my time? Because I tell you what, if I send a presentation to a company, and after 2 or 3 weeks of follow-ups, they haven't opened up a thing, I think I'm going to leave that tree for another year, don't you? But if they're accessing it within the week, if they're accessing multiple assets within that presentation, they're watching the video, maybe they're watching it twice, they're viewing pages. We had a great example last quarter, very end of the quarter, where a colleague of mine stood at the back there. She shared 3 different proposal options with the client. Option A, option B, option C. And she saw that they spent maximum 20 seconds on option A and option B, and they spent 8 minutes on option C. So when she was going up to them, end of quarter, deadline day 10 days away. So let's talk about option C, and she was able to actually motivate those guys to do a deal. But she knew exactly the conversation to have. So when we talk about getting into the mind of your buyer, getting that psychic situation going on with your reps, Point Drive has been a real game changer for me, for Stu, for the rest of the team as well. And I don't send attachments in emails anymore if I can help it. And like I said, the best thing about it, you know exactly what they're looking at. And like I said, 7 people are involved, but people change role. We're actually trained as sales professionals here at LinkedIn. It's part of the LinkedIn way that we do a process called multi-threading. So multi-threading is where you build relationships with as many of the decision-making process as possible because it raises your chances of getting the deal. It also makes it faster. But even if I do all this, what if the VP of sales leaves? And what if the managing director leaves? Suddenly, there's some cogs missing from the machine. So how do I counteract that? Because that, for me, salesperson selling to salespeople, which ultimately needs to get signed off by a sales director or MD, is pretty catastrophic. And number one, I need to know if it happens. And like I said, if you have multiple relationships to the tune of 6 or more, new business, which is my role, I'm going to win it 34% higher just by having more relationships. We studied 100,000 deals from about 11,000 of our clients. This is what the data showed us, 34% lift, and thanks to Ethan and the Insights team for providing that. And more importantly, for some of you guys who are focusing on the account manager side of things, if your renewal rate can go up by 7%, just imagine the kind of returns that could create for your business. That's the difference between hitting a quarter or not. There's profitability in there, there's renewal rates, there's many different things that can really impact your business. So what I have at my disposal through Sales Navigator, through LinkedIn, is that Alexandra is a prospect of mine. She was in an Asia marketing role, but I got an update that told me that she moved to a global role. Fantastic. You know, I'm able to reach out to her, congratulate her on that role, and actually positions me to be able to flex and to weave and to dodge and be able to actually be proactive about that change. Identify the replacement, be able to maybe elevate the conversation and have a global conversation rather than a regional one. You know, more knowledge to me enables me to actually mitigate that risk of her moving. And what I'm also getting is recommendations of other people that might be interesting for me. Somebody moves, who's taking that role? And that's really important for me to fill and plug that gap with other stakeholders, because we know there's going to have to be a certain number of stakeholders for a deal to be most successful. Now, for those in the room who are thinking about, yeah, but what if my rep leaves? He's got all these notes in Excel, he's got all these notes, or she's got all of these emails that have been sent or messages that have been sent on LinkedIn that I've got no access to. One of the best things, and I think this is something that Stu really, really likes, is that every time I send a message on LinkedIn, because we've got a CRM that syncs with it, and if you guys have Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, that's available today. And if you've got other CRM systems like Oracle and HubSpot, that's available in the future, next coming quarters. You can actually write every single message back to CRM, which means that if I left LinkedIn next week, Stu replaces me with somebody I'm sure far more handsome, more of a lumberjack. They're able to pick up every conversation that I've been happening based on the CRM data. That keeps the deal alive. It means you're not starting from day one and starting that 4.9-month process again. So these are just a couple of ways that I help to reduce the risk of both my clients losing people and maybe if I left. Maybe I had to leave the country or something. The very, very final piece, and I think this is something that's really around kind of behavioral training that we would help your team to do, but something that should really be instilled is around losing touch with prospects. And I think that it's very easy for salespeople to get into the first meeting and deliver a great presentation, and maybe they send the presentation afterwards. They do, or maybe they don't get them opening it, and they can see that for the first time. But maybe they do get them opening it, but over a sales cycle, which is getting longer than ever before. You know, people that are selling in 6 months are selling in 8 months. People that are selling in 8 months are selling in 12 months. This is an impact that's being felt all across the world. But losing touch with prospects throughout that process can be mitigated. That can be solved by building stronger relationships at the start, by introductions, like Melissa talked about earlier, but also it would help the forecasted deals that are going dark from not going dark, and also impacting your bottom line. So what we see is that if you are engaged and you do react to those trigger events like people changing job, or maybe they get a promotion, or they connect with somebody that you know, if you're able to react to that, you're able to dodge and weave and actually leverage that, you can increase your annual revenue by 10%, which can counterbalance the 24% that may go dark. And you'll actually be able to save the deals that are going dark anyway. So Chris is a prospect of mine. I'm sure he won't mind me telling you that. And we've got a great relationship. What I'm able to do throughout the course of the process, and I've been actually in touch with him for a year, because they just weren't ready to buy last year. About 13 months ago, him and I first sat down. But he's super engaged on LinkedIn, as many of your people are, as Stu said. Pretty much every single professional in Singapore is on there and using it regularly. So I'm here able to like everything he's posting, comment on it, share things with him in it, and it really creates a social relationship that exists when I'm not in the room. Gets my face in there, gets my name in front of him, so it reminds him, gets him much more familiar with me. But say Chris did go dark, he dumped me, maybe. Then what I need to do to keep that deal alive is be able to identify who else can help me. So, for example, Bill here, CMO and head of strategy, based in Eindhoven, in Amsterdam, sorry. Now, he would be Chris's boss's boss. So doing a bit of a skip level sell here. But this actually goes back to a situation that we faced in, I think it was Q1 this year, where there was a big renewal deal on the table. And the client was dragging their heels. So this isn't even about losing touch with prospects. It's about dragging heels, and maybe the deal's not going to get through that quarter. And what we were able to do was identify that the CMO of this client, and this was one of the largest IT services organizations in the world based out of India, we were actually able to see, very much like Bill here, that we had a colleague in California that was able to introduce us to that skip level leader. And we were able to get that executive engagement between the two of them, and he was able to, come on, let's get this done. And they worked at the executive level to work on this. Now, if I was losing touch with the people that I'm dealing with in the mid-level and I was able to get Melissa or her leader involved in a conversation, amazing way to get that back to the table with more weight and with more urgency, which is really going to help you guys and certainly has helped me a number of times to close my quarters effectively. So, what does it all mean? Key takeaways for you guys, we've got 3 things that we're trying to cover, trying to solve for. Number 1, it takes as long to get to a no purchase decision. 5 months. I could walk to Moscow in 5 months. That is a long time. Point Drive, all the updates that you're able to get, you're able to flex and weave and react to engagement or non-engagement with materials. Really helps you get into the mind of your buyer. Helps you to understand, are they worth my time this year? If they are, fantastic. They're more engaged. If they're not, thank you very much, I've got to be somewhere else. Number 2, deals were put at risk due to turnover. 20% of decision makers, 20% of sales reps were very transient, although I promise you, nothing's happening. Multi-threading is going to be a key piece. 6 or more decision makers, you win more often, you renew more often. It's data, it's science, it's irrefutable fact. But unfortunately, salespeople aren't motivated generally to do that. So let's get your team doing that first and foremost. And let's give them the updates that enables them to do that. And then very finally, losing touch with prospects. Build better relationships when you're not in the room. Be more effective with the time that you have available and facilitate and enable your reps to get their name, to get their face in front of the people that matter more often. That's it from me. Thanks very much. I'm going to ask Stu back to the stage to answer any questions. If anybody would like to challenge or question or get more clarity on anything that we've talked about today.